a salary or a wage or an income is the bribe they give you to give up on your dreams. So I printed off a piece of paper and I put it above my bed on the ceiling, not on the wall, above my bed. And I had written on that piece of paper, printed out, was change requires action. And I'm a big believer that desiring and wanting change isn't enough. Change is an action, it's a choice. So that was where everything changed for me. I realized this was my moment, this was the thing, although it was by accident that I discovered this thing called...
Lewis Crompton built Star Trading Now and teaches simple, rules-based strategies used by thousands. He'll show you how to trade with a plan that you can follow.
One of the things I notice about society now is not many people are passionate. They don't know what it means to sacrifice for a cause or to be pursuing something bigger than they are or beyond themselves.
Welcome to the Swedish Wealth Institute podcast. I am your host, Daniel Wood. Our mission at the Swedish Wealth Institute is simple. We want to connect you with the right mentor at the right time so you can take your next step towards your dream life. Because we believe in giving first, every single episode starts with a special gift from us to you to help you faster grow to financial freedom. Today, we got a really special gift. As Lewis Crompton, our guest, and we have both worked with the Rich Dad organization for many years, we want to give you a €25 discount on the Cashflow 101 board game. It is an amazing way to learn about financial freedom. It's about how to create a financial statement and escape the rat race so you can build real wealth. You can find the link in the show notes and the discount code for how to get it. Simply put, you can go to the SwedishWealthInstitute.com and click on Cashflow or click the link below. And when you order the game, either in Swedish or in English, use the discount code shared in the show notes and you will get your €25 discount. Now, let's talk about today's guest. Lewis Crompton is a wealth coach and one of the UK's leading experts on financial freedom. In our conversation, Lewis breaks down how you can build passive income, how to design your dream lifestyle, and how to invest with confidence safely and securely, no matter where you're starting from. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you follow or subscribe because every single week we bring you another world-class mentor, speaker, coach, and more gifts to help you reach your success. All right, welcome to the episode. Obviously, you are an investor. We've talked many times about how you've invested in property. You obviously do trading. You're looking at investing in businesses. But let's go back to where it all began. So give us a background to your journey and like who you are.
Brilliant question. So I was, how far back do we go? So I was born in North London, which is in the UK, if anybody didn't know where London is. Yeah. And I was born to two parents, mum and dad, who were both teachers. So shout out to Pat and Pete. They're wonderful people. And I just had a very normal life. We didn't struggle for money, but we definitely didn't have an abundance of money either. So I very much remember being a kid and being told that I couldn't have this, I couldn't have that. I couldn't go on the ski trips at school. So I was very aware from quite a young age that I was limited financially because of my parents' limited incomes. As much as teachers do an incredible job, they don't get paid that well, really, considering what they do. So I was very conscious from a very early age that we didn't have the money that we needed to do the things that maybe I wanted to do or to have the things that I wanted. And I think that kind of prompted the answer to the question when my parents asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up, Lewis? And I didn't give the standard, I want to be an astronaut or I want to be a firefighter or anything like that, because they sound like too much hard work to me. And my answer was, I want to be rich and I don't want to work very hard for my money. And so roll forward from that point, probably about 20 years, there I am traveling the world, working just 30 minutes a day as a trader and generating an income that supports my lifestyle. And that's what I now teach other people to do. But in the middle of all of that journey was quite a lot going on as well. So I was part of the local church. I went very, very heavily into the church.
Did that come from your parents or was that you?
Kind of, yeah. I would say that we were a Christian household, but by culture versus by faith, really. So we didn't talk about churchy or religious things at home. We didn't pray together. We didn't read the Bible together or anything like that. We would maybe on a special occasion say grace over a meal, maybe, potentially, but not really ever. I think we do it at Christmas every now and then. So they weren't particularly religious. They weren't particularly spiritual. But I think in my teen years, I was looking for a place to belong. And I was looking for an idea of what is right, what is wrong, kind of a moral compass, I suppose. And for various different reasons, I needed a kind of a black and white view of the world just to kind of make me feel mentally and internally safe. So the church really did provide me with that. And it was incredible. It showed me what my gifts were. It gave me space to explore my gifts, like speaking in front of people. I've been doing since I was 14 years old. I've been teaching and preaching, which is why sometimes I get a bit hallelujah, amen when I'm talking and I get on my passionate soapbox. I discovered that I loved singing. I was pretty good at singing. And again, the church gave me somewhere every single week to kind of sing my heart out with passion. And I think one of the things I notice about society now is not many people are passionate. They don't know what it means to sacrifice for a cause or to be pursuing something bigger than they are or beyond themselves. And I definitely notice that more and more until the point where people kind of have kids and have a family. And then they realize there's more to life than just kind of themselves. And this is when I start to work with people more often, is when they become aware and they wake up to the fact that there's more to life than just that 9 to 5, and trading, it can be a doorway for them to freedom. See, I was very heavily involved in the church. When I was 18, 19, I trained as a counselor in the church with an organization in America, which was very, very fundamental, very, very black and white, very Puritan, very evangelical, spiritual. And it was, again, incredible. It allowed me to find a way to truly help people, to feel like I was making a difference in the world. And that has always been the core of me, is to help other people live happier, healthier lives. And so I used to do that in the church on a very spiritual, emotional level. And now I do that on a very much a mindset, a wellness, and a financial level, because I do believe that when we take that financial pressure off of people on a day-to-day basis, that they live happier, healthier lives. And we actually create a really safe environment for kids to grow up in, which is more nurturing, more supportive, and happier as well, because they've not got stressed out parents. Yeah. And so in my early 20s, I burned out emotionally from that work that I was doing within the church. I actually built an international business doing that. And I found myself working in retail on the shop floor. And that's when I discovered Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's when I went along to a seminar for the first time about personal development and personal finance. And I signed up for the wrong thing, which is very much true to form for me. So I signed up for the wrong seminar. I was meant to go to the property seminar, and I found myself sat in the financial market seminar instead. And so that was where everything changed for me. I realized this was my moment. This was the thing. Although it was by accident that I discovered this thing called trading, it meant I could make money anywhere in the world as long as I had an internet connection and as long as I had this skill set in place. And I ran with it. I took out a credit card. I took out a loan to pay for mentorship at the time, which was half my annual salary, which in one sense was a lot, and in another sense wasn't, because I was only working in retail. And I decided to go for it. And 7 months later, I was able to leave my job and start traveling around the world, start trading. And that's where kind of my trading journey began. And about 2 years after that, Rich Dad asked me to come and teach and mentor on behalf of them. And about 4 years after that, I had kind of evolved my trading process, evolved my trading systems, and I felt like they were simpler and easier. And so I decided to launch out on my own, create my own community around trading. And that was the birth of Star Trading, which is kind of what brings us here today.
Wow. All right. So that's a lot to unpack. So let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to when you were there in the US. You mentioned quickly you built an international business around that. Like, what is that?
Yeah. So my business was helping people, surprise, surprise. And initially, to be honest, I was a little bit uncomfortable with that, because really what I was doing was counseling work and therapy work. And my church mentor at the time said, Lewis, if you don't charge people, they won't value it. And so I observed for a few months, and I did a lot of free work with people, and they would turn up late. They would not turn up at all. They wouldn't tell you that they were counseling. So they just wasted all my time. And then the people who did pay and invest in themselves for those sessions, they turned up on time. They turned up early. They didn't just turn it into a conversation and a nice little chat. They did the work. And so I realized at the age of 19, oh, when people invest in themselves, they take it more seriously and they do the work. So that was kind of inbuilt in me right there. So I became very, very well known for doing what I did. I think partly because there was a bit of shock factor, because I look young now for my age, but imagine me at the age of 18, 19, I looked like I was about 14 years old. And here I am dealing with very, very intense cases, very, very intense emotional things with people. But I was quite intuitive. So people couldn't get things past me. They would come to a session, they'd realize who I was, and they realized I was really young, and they would make up something about what they wanted to be there to work on. And very often I'd be like, I know that's not the truth. What do you actually want to work on? And then there would be a really deep, very painful, often quite traumatic experience or life situation that they were trying to move on from. And so, yeah, it was very, very intense work, very, very intense. But I built up an international reputation as being very good at that. And that's why I had technically a global business.
Wow. But you left the church and you're not close with the church now. Do you want to share kind of what happened?
Yeah. So a couple of things. In my early 20s, I burnt out emotionally. I realized I had my own childhood trauma that I'd never dealt with. And so that all started starting to unravel. And so I was dealing with a lot of emotional stuff and unlocked memories coming back and all of that fun stuff. The problem when you're doing therapy for other people is you start to have to do a lot of therapy on yourself because it triggers and brings up a lot of other stuff. I also became aware that my sexuality wasn't necessarily conducive to the fundamental, very Puritan group that I was part of. And that started to create a massive internal battle, a massive internal tension. And that tension led me to feeling very, very depressed, very, very down, crying myself to sleep most nights, doing everything I could to change that element of who I was, because I believed at the time that that's not who God wanted me to be or made me to be. And so I begged, I pleaded, I starved myself. I did all these things to try and implore God, beg God to change who I was, and nothing changed for years. And so I thought, of all these people that I help, of all these good things that I'm doing, of all this misery that I'm going through based on something I cannot control, it just doesn't make sense to me that this is a problem for God. And so I stepped away from the church, not necessarily from my faith or my belief system, although that has evolved over time. But I would still say I hold my faith and spirituality. But stepping away from the religiosity and the doctrine and the dogma of the church, progressively from that point for years, because I wasn't allowed to have that business. I wasn't allowed to be a leader in the church based on who I truly actually was. And so I lost that international business, which is why I found myself working in retail.
How has that emotional journey been? I mean, obviously you're married now, so you've kind of gotten over a lot of those issues. So what changed? How did you change?
Great question. I think it took years, to be honest, years and years and years for that to change. I found myself in my first adult relationship when I was 26 years old, which is when I confessed to my parents that I was attracted to the same gender. And that was tricky as well. Not because my parents are homophobic or anti it. They just wanted me to have an easier, happier life. And they'd grown up in a generation where gay people had a very, very tricky and very, very difficult life. And that still is the case in a lot of ways nowadays. You'd think it wouldn't be, but there is still a lot of prejudice. There's a lot of people who don't want to know anything about what I talk about, even though I'm just trying to help people on account of the fact that I'm gay and I'm married to a man. So my first adult relationship went terribly, went very, very bad, caused more trauma and upset and heartache. But that showed me what a good relationship looked like. So I'm now married to a wonderful human being called Josh, probably one of the nicest, kindest people you'd ever meet. Also incredibly frustrating and incredibly annoying, as any partner is. But yes, we have a very good relationship, very healthy relationship. So the journey was long. It took me a long time to kind of unpick all the internal self-rejection, the internal self-hatred. I don't think I'm 100% there. I don't know if I ever will be 100% there, especially because there's a lot that still goes on in society where that kind of compounds on that hatred and that self-rejection and the rejection in general. So it's an ongoing journey for sure, but I'm in a good place.
That's good. We'll see what happens after I cut that part you said about Josh out and send that to him.
Out of context, yeah.
Out of context. I'll just send that part and see what he says. Uh, but from there, going through all that emotion and in many ways leaving what was a very successful international, and you had that acclaim, you had these, older people talking to you about their issues, you were getting that a lot of appreciation. You then went to retail and kind of started over from the beginning. How did that work out for you emotionally? What were you going through?
It was very tough. And I think it was, in one sense, working retail was a place of safety, because at that point, I still wasn't out to the world. I was just no longer in the church. So it became a place of safety and a place of escape initially when I was on the shop floor. And I found some really, really good friends who just loved me and accepted me for the way that I was. And I discovered there was a lot of love outside of the church. Whereas before I was kind of told to believe that they're not happy. People who don't know God aren't happy. They're secretly miserable. And I was like, oh, this isn't true. They actually are happy people. And they're honest and they're real and they love people. And it was quite eye-opening. When I moved into head office, I worked my way up off the shop floor. And those people that I worked on the shop floor with, I'm still very good friends with, actually. And when I was in head office, that's when things started to, again, unravel emotionally. I shared with somebody about my sexuality, and that then became office gossip, which kind of outed me publicly when I wasn't quite ready. And as much as that was difficult and painful, I'm kind of glad that it happened, because it allowed me to kind of bite the bullet and just get on with it. And nobody really cared, although it was entertaining for them, because it just was entertaining for them. No one was really that bothered. And it kind of taught me a lesson as well. Like, no one really cares about your life as much as you do. So number one, that means you have to take responsibility for yourself and create the life that you want. But number two, if you make mistakes and stuff goes wrong, don't worry about it.
I love how we both then took the next step by reading the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's how I was introduced. How were you introduced to the book? How did you find it?
So I went to see some friends of mine in, where was I? A place called Marmondsbury. Not that interesting a place, but it's where the Dyson factory is. So my friend was working at the Dyson factory, and they had discovered Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And they were starting to look into doing property investing. So they said, Lewis, you should check this out. And it was, for both of us, it was about creating freedom. I wanted to create freedom. I wanted to get out of the situation that I was in. I never wanted to feel trapped ever again, probably because of my past situation. And so that's when I discovered for the first time this concept of investing, understood who Robert Kiyosaki was, understood about the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so I got myself a copy. And then I found myself in a seminar, but I was meant to go to the property one because that's what my friends were doing, and found myself in the wrong room. But it was definitely the right room for me. So call that divine intervention.
Was that you booked the wrong seminar, or are they literally side by side and you just chose the wrong door or right door?
I thought I had booked the property investing seminar when I did it online. So I did it all online. I seen an advert in the Metro paper, which is a free paper in the London Underground. And I saw this advert. So when I got to work, which I knew I wanted to get out of, I went and registered, and I thought I'd registered for the property seminar. Thankfully, the seminars were happening at the same time in the same location. So when I got there and I got to the registration desk, they said, oh, your name's not on this list. And I was like, I've definitely registered. Please find my name. And they went, your name is not on the list. And I said, I've definitely done this. So please find my name. And they went, bear with me 1 second. They went to like a different table and found my name, and it was for the trading seminar.
I'm guessing you weren't the only person that was going to the wrong table that day.
Probably not. No.
All right. So let's walk through after, because so many people have been trained by Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad organization. So you learned that, you went off, you started implementing. How did you get that phone call where they're going like, well, Lewis, you're doing better than everyone else. Come and teach them. How does that even happen? Because as an entrepreneur, we're so lonely and no one really sees what we're doing often. So how did they see you? What happened?
It's a really good question. I think you're right. It's particularly with trading and financial markets, it can become a very insular, very lonely thing, which is partly why when I set up Star Trading, I wanted it to be a community of people who were connected. And that's why we go on holidays together. We travel together. We've just been this weekend playing darts together in London. We always are doing stuff together because otherwise it can be quite lonely. And so I'm very much a people person. From my church background, I'm used to being part of a community, and there wasn't really that involved, but I was trying my best to stay connected with people. So I would just talk. So I would talk to my mentors. I'd talk to my coaches at times, say, hey, this is what I'm doing. And then when they found out that I was about to quit my job because of my trading, they said, well, would you like to come to an event and do like a 10-minute testimonial about your journey? I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Now, they didn't know at the time that from the age of 14, I'd been stood in front of groups of people talking and sharing wisdom or knowledge or whatever it might be. And so they were like, oh, you're really good in front of people. I was like, yeah, even though to this day, I still get so nervous before I ever speak on stage, like so nervous. The second I'm there though, and I've got my first couple of sentences out the way, I completely relax and completely calm down. But that moment before going on, I'm always super nervous. So after that testimonial, they kind of watched me for a little bit, but a little bit more closely to see how my trading was performing. And then it was about a year after that point, year or two after that, then they said, hey, would you like to come back and do some teaching? And they realized I was really good at teaching. Well, no surprise there, because technically in the church I was doing teaching, but also teaching's in my blood. My parents are teachers. My parents' parents were teachers. It's what my family have done. So again, that was in my blood as well. So it just kind of fell all together because of the nature of who I am, the fact I chose to communicate with my coaches about what I was doing and what was going on. The positives as well as the difficulties, it didn't come naturally to me trading. I had to really work at the skill, but I think that's something that's really encouraging, is the fact that it is a skill set. So anybody can learn a skill set, like anybody can learn to drive, like anyone can, I don't know, learn to register for the correct seminar, not the wrong seminar as well. So yeah, that's how that kind of started to evolve. And they realized I was really good at teaching as well. So they asked me to come and do international teaching. So I didn't just teach in the UK. I taught a lot in South Africa, which is where I fell in love with South Africa, particularly Cape Town and the winelands and wine. And the steak. Oh my goodness, the steak in South Africa, phenomenal. All over Europe. Literally all over the world. It was an incredible opportunity that I think was made available to me because I'm a people person. I want to see other people succeed. And I think that's what made me a good teacher, but also a good speaker as well. Because I want to see people succeed. I want to see them do really well.
What was the training they pulled you through? How did they, what was the difference from speaking as a, in church to speaking for Rich Dad? And how did they help you transition?
Great question. Not much different, to be honest, because you want to be engaging. You want, just doing a flat presentation is not interesting. Reading off of slides is not interesting. So very much when I was in the church, I didn't have slides. We didn't really have, it sounds bad, but we didn't have the tech for it. Like the amount of times I just spoke in a hallway somewhere with a group of people in that hallway, or spoke at a church that didn't have PowerPoint presentations or projectors or anything like that. It just didn't exist. So I was very used to speaking without slides and kind of having to remember what I was going to talk about. And so the training that I went through with Rich Dad wasn't massively in detailed or in depth, but they helped me kind of craft a presentation in terms of thinking about what is the core message you want to get across. Again, same with the church, talking about and showing me maybe better ways to bring that across. I think the major difference between speaking for Rich Dad on, say, a seminar versus speaking in the church is there's a sell element. Whereas in the church, for me, it was all about adding value. Yeah. So even now, I still have a problem where if someone who is a sales presenter trainer would look at any of my presentations, they will tell me off for adding too much value, for giving too much away. But I can't help myself. It's in my nature. I don't want to ever speak to a group of people and not feel like I've added value. So learning how to bring in that dynamic of sales, which is for me actually an incredibly positive thing, because if someone hadn't have sold me on the idea of trading, I wouldn't be here today. And so I think it's an incredibly positive thing. Although people hear the word sales and they hear negativity, I'm so thankful that someone sold me into the idea of trading because it changed my life massively.
Well, and you already saw that when you were in the church, that when your clients paid, which meant there had to be some kind of sale even there, then they actually got more out of it.
Yeah. And there's a brilliant book that I've only read the title of, but I really like the title. But it's Sell or Be Sold. And the basic premise of the book is that in everything you're doing in life, you're either selling or being sold to. So in a relationship, when one of you wants to have one type of dinner and the other one wants to have the other type of dinner, you're entering into a sales negotiation to see who is going to win. And so they're trying to sell you on their idea and you're trying to sell them on your one. So there's always this selling dynamic, and it's just persuasion. It's just about helping people see the best option for them. And sometimes the result in a sale conversation is it's not the best time for them to buy. It's not the best thing for them to do. But most of the time, that's just an excuse. And we don't tolerate excuses anymore.
I love that you recommend a book that you haven't read.
The title sounds great.
Yeah, exactly. We love the title. And I realize that's how I kind of make sure I always eat dinners I like, because I'll cook and I'll just say, I can cook you this or I can cook you that. What do you want? And then either way, I cook something that I want.
Either way you win. Yeah, there's two options, but you want them both. So yeah, exactly. The illusion of choice. I love it.
Exactly. And that I haven't even thought of it as a sales pitch, but I realize I'm doing that. That's good stuff. So what were some cool experiences you had while speaking for Rich Dad when you were traveling the world?
I think the coolest. Yeah, there's no dirt. Well, I will say one thing about Robert that a lot of people don't realize is he's actually quite tall. People don't realize how tall Robert is. And I didn't before I met him. I thought he would be shorter. I don't know why I had the impression he'd be shorter, but similar, people think I'm quite short until they meet me and they realize I'm actually taller than they're expecting. But that even happens with friends of mine I've had for 10 years. They seem to forget I must be giving small man energy or something like that. So
they don't want to say anything.
The coolest experience I think I probably had was being backstage with Robert before sharing the stage with Robert. That was pretty cool. And just listening to some of those conversations that were going on that were, to be honest, totally above my level at the time. And then being on that same stage with him, and that was in Cape Town as well. That was pretty phenomenal. There was about, I think, 4,000 or 5,000 people in the audience in that event. And I love it. To be honest, for me, the bigger the audience, the better. It's almost like I get less nervous because it's maybe less intimate. As much as I try and make it as intimate, as engaging, and bring everyone in the audience together, sometimes it's easier to see a sea of people than it is to see just 5 people there. And I've been on some terrible speaking gigs where literally no one turns up, or 2 people turn up, or 1 person turns up, and you still have to do the business of delivering and giving them value. So yeah.
No, I agree. I always, when I try to explain that to people, I always say, if you're on stage and you tell a joke and you get 10% of people to laugh, if there's only 10 people in the room, that one person who laughed is going to be really embarrassed and go like, oops, I shouldn't have laughed at that. But if there's 1,000 people in the room and 100 people break out in laughter, then the other 900 are like, wait, everyone else is laughing. I should be laughing. That must have been funny. And they feel stupid, so I'm funnier the more people are in the room.
That's very true. Yeah.
Let's go back to your trading now and talk money. So what happened when you started trading, you started using their method, and you got to your, at 2 years, and then you could quit your job? Share that whole experience, because I know everyone listening wants that experience.
Yeah. So I was actually able to leave my job after 7 months.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. It's only 2 years later from the point of starting that I then began kind of teaching.
Right. So you essentially were free for 17 months before you started teaching it.
Yeah, exactly. So the journey was pretty simple in a sense. Like, I just did what I was told. I just followed the process. And that's what led to those results. So yes, it meant I had to get up a little bit earlier each morning. One of the things I was very conscious of is that in that moment, it was a choice to create change. And so I printed off a piece of paper and I put it above my bed on the ceiling, not on the wall, above my bed. And literally. And I had written on that piece of paper, printed out, was change requires action. And I'm a big believer that desiring and wanting change isn't enough. Change is an action. It's a choice. And so every day you have to choose that change and choose to take a step to move you towards that change. And so every morning I would get up earlier than I care to and like to, so that I could have enough time to learn this new skill set and practice this new skill set. And it was only about an hour a day that I was spending doing that, because I had a job, I had a social life, all of those things going on. So that was kind of the initial process. And after 7 months, that started to pay off. So I was trading the markets live. What I will
you
say
were
is
doing technical analysis now. So you were
analysis.
just drawing out your graphs. You saw, all right, now it's time to buy. Now it's time to sell, stop losses, and all the fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly that. So technical analysis is what allows me and my mentees to trade for less than 30 minutes a day, because we're super duper clear on what we're looking for. And so when we don't find what we're looking for, we just move on very, very quickly. So it's quick. We don't have to spend loads of time analyzing the markets, listening to the news, all of that rubbish, which is A, depressing, and B, just takes a lot longer. So we don't need to do that. So I was
for
following
anyone listening, there are two schools of investing in the markets. It's technical analysis and, I'm blanking.
Fundamental.
Thank you. Fundamental analysis. See, that's why I need you. And what happens then is fundamental analysis. That's what people like Warren Buffett do. They'll research a whole company. They'll say, this one is undervalued and I should be investing. While technical analysis doesn't really care about the underlying asset. It more just says, is the underlying asset, or is the value in the market going to go up or down? And then let's make a profit from whatever movement it makes.
Yeah. And it's also different styles of trading. So what Warren Buffett does is longer term investing.
Yeah.
Whereas what we're doing at Star Trading is we're doing shorter term investing. So we only hold our investments for a couple of days to a couple of weeks. And so that is why we can focus more on technical analysis versus the fundamental analysis, and why we only want to spend 30 minutes a day doing it as well.
Goes back to your original dream, right? You wanted to be rich and you wanted to not have to work.
Exactly that. Mum and Dad are surprised I've managed to make it a reality, because obviously that wasn't their reality at the time. So my mum still doesn't quite get what I do. And I actually brought my mum and dad to a speaking gig a couple of weekends ago. There was about 1,000 people in the room, because they've never really seen me speak about, well, they haven't seen me speak. They've never seen me at work. So all they've ever seen of my work is me busy away on a laptop doing something. They've never really...
And then claiming to have made thousands of dollars. And yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So they came along to that. And my mum said after, I was like, well, that was very good. I still don't really know what you do. I was like, oh my goodness, Mum, come on. Killing me.
1,000 people figured it out after that talk. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, bless her. She still doesn't really get what I do. So, I mean, I'm sure she's proud of me, but just for no reason why, and no understanding why. So yeah, so within that 7-month period, I'd got myself trading live. I had a small amount of capital that I was growing. And the reality is, back then, I didn't have masses of expenses. So I didn't need to generate exceptional sums of money to be able to leave my job. I mean, I was only earning £19,000 a year in that job that I was in. So it wasn't hard to technically replace that from my trading. And from that point of leaving, I grew my account, and we aim for between 5% and 10% per month if you're using the Star Trading method. So just for context, you might be making a year in the bank about 5% on your savings for a fairly decent.
That would be really good. Account. I mean, most banks, if you get anything, you're happy.
Exactly. And we're doing that on a monthly basis, and it's only taking us 30 minutes a day. And if you're in the UK, that's tax-free. If you're not in the UK, it will probably fall into capital gains tax, but there's other vehicles you can use to lower the tax as well, depending on what country you're in. But I'm not going to go into a full-on tax seminar right now.
So let's stay away from that. But yeah, if you want to know more, Lewis does have a surprise on that. You can talk tax with him later.
But one thing on the tax that I learned from Robert is he said, if you are paying tax, it's a sign that you're earning money. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, we do want to be tax efficient, of course, but don't make it fully negative. Because then if you're using taxation as a reason to not move forward with trading or investing in some way, that's 100% the wrong mindset for you to be in. I
mean, even if you're paying 30% tax, you're still getting 70% of something instead of 100% of nothing.
Exactly. And this is a low time commitment income. trading. And notice I don't say passive because I don't really believe in passive income. I know, I'm sorry, Robert, but I don't really believe in passive income. Like we were talking before, weren't we, Daniel? Property investing is hard work. Like it is hard work. Unless you have maybe 1,000 properties where you're paying somebody else to fully manage everything. But even then, you should probably be involved.
You're still the chairman of the board. You're still going through the reports. Like we know as entrepreneurs, it is not a passive job to run a company.
No.
But before we get to like where you're now and what you're doing now, because we're going to talk about that, I want to ask what changed in those 2 years when you were teaching for the Rich Dad organization and you realized that you'd refined your method to be easier than what you were told to teach and get better, simpler results. What did you do differently? Like what happened there?
I think it was just a case of, I've never been asked that before, so I'm externally processing here. I think it was just a case of experience. So this is the way I've been taught and it's working. But as you do with anything, especially if you are entrepreneurial, I think sometimes that should be caveated with simple and lazy. I don't mean lazy in a bad way, by the way, but we will find the easiest way to get the same result. Yeah. That's kind of in our nature to do that. And so I was just looking every single day that I was looking at my charts. How could I make this more effective? How could I make this more efficient? And so it was just a gradual process and it kind of evolved to almost being its whole own system that wasn't necessarily fully in line with what I'd learned originally. That doesn't mean what I learned originally was bad and
it let you quit your job. It obviously worked.
Yeah, it was just I now kind of had my own simpler process, simpler system with a couple of tweaks here and there because there is so many ways to cut the trading onion.
Yeah,
and lots of different ways can work. And this way just worked better for me, and it started to feel like it was working better for other people that I was teaching it to as well. So
were you teaching your method then at the Rich Dad,
no.
or you were at home doing this, and then you'd come to class and say, "Hey, let's all do this."
Kind of, yeah, because the framework was brilliant that I learned, right? And I hadn't really, my style hadn't become a full-on framework. It took another 6 years for that to happen.
Right.
So it was only after I've been trading for 6 years that I went, I should probably teach my style to people now. And I remember the moment that I decided to do that. I was in Durban, in a hotel. If you live in Durban, I'm very sorry. I'm not the biggest fan. There's definitely other places I'd rather be. But I was in this hotel room in Durban and I was having a bit of a midlife, quarter life crisis at the time. So I was not quite 30 years old. And I just sat there and thought, what am I doing? Like, I don't feel like I'm having the impact on the world that I want to be having. And it kind of was bringing me back to all these emotions and desires and wanting to help people that I had when I was 19 years old. And so I, in that moment, decided, right, I'm going to teach my method to people and do it under my own steam. Not that I'd fallen out with Rich Dad or anything like that. There was definitely no animosity whatsoever. It was just, this was the next stage in my own personal evolution. And I wanted to do that. And I always think about the quote that a salary or a wage or an income is the bribe they give you to give up on your dreams. And I was like, oh, I'm in quite a nice situation here where I'm earning okay money from doing something I love, which is teaching and helping other people, but it's not fully under my own steam. It's not fully me. And I've also got my own trading income. And by that point, I also had property income as well. So I'm totally fine. But I was also aware that if I take out this income from speaking on behalf and teaching on behalf of Rich Dad, that I was still going to be totally fine and financially free. So it gave me the possibility to think, what do I really want to do? What mark do I want to leave in the world? Do I want to only leave the mark that I've benefited someone else building their dream? Or do I want to start building my own dream, my own community, doing things differently? Not, well, in my opinion, it would be better because they're more aligned to me, but not that there was something wrong with what was being done before, but just more aligned to who I am.
It felt weird still, you doing something and then you go to class and tell people to do something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I'd thrown out everything that Rich Dad taught me on a personal level. Yeah. I just had, for me, improved adaptations and strategies and systems that I was using. But I was still using at that point some of their systems and methods as well.
So talk about how that journey of setting up your own company and basically a coaching business, how that went and the challenges you faced.
Yeah, I mean, so I had that big realization and then I completely backtracked from it because I realized how much work it was going to be. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure I want to do that. And so initially my big idea was to write an ebook. And by the way, I'm partway through writing the actual book, the trading compendium. So that'll be released hopefully by the end of this year. Yeah, I'll let you know as soon as. So I decided to just write an ebook. There was going to be a lead magnet that would actually filter people into rich dads. That was my plan. So it's like, I'll bring them in and then you can deal with them and I don't have to look after them. And then I realized very quickly that that's not what people wanted. What people wanted me. So after they had the ebook, they're like, right, we want you to teach us. So it's like, well, I'm not doing that. These guys are doing that. And then a friend of mine.
That makes sense that they've just read your book and then you say, well, great, these people teach a similar model, go work with them.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to them.
And it logically doesn't make sense, right? But that was my big idea. I was like, right, I don't have to take on any of the hard work. I've put the hard work into writing this ebook and adding as much value into it as I can. Now they can go and be taught by Rich Dad. But like I said, it didn't work. So they started pestering me, literally pestering me, asked me to create a course.
Can I ask, how did you put the ebook out? Like, how did people find it?
Just social media.
Right. You just posted it on Facebook and different platforms. And did it kind of take on a life of its own that people were sharing it with friends or what happened?
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah. I mean, it didn't become like a Times bestseller or anything like that, especially not with my spelling and grammar. But yeah, it did kind of take off.
Pre-AI, before AI could fix it all.
Pre-AI, yeah. I didn't use ChatGPT at all, which is why it took me 2 years to write it. Was there such a time? Did ChatGPT ever not exist? So I wish it did back then. So yeah, so that started to grow momentum and people were sharing it and they asked me for this course. And then this one girl called Nora, who I'd known for years, she was like, Lewis, I've been asking you to teach me for literally years now. Just hurry up and create something for me. I was like, fine, okay, I'll do it. And that was in a Starbucks actually in London that we had that conversation. And I started creating the course and I like to put myself under pressure to make sure I do things. So it was a 12-module course, 12-week course, 12-module course. And I launched it after I'd created the first 4 weeks. So I knew I had 4 weeks to get the next 4 weeks done. So as people were getting to the end of the course, so like, where's the next? So I was like, it'll be with you soon. So then it forced me to have to do the work to create the next 4 weeks and then the next 4 weeks after that. And from that, we started very, very early on building a community that we originally had on Telegram. By the way, side note, I'm not on Telegram, although there is people pretending to be me on Telegram. I'm not on Telegram. And that's where we originally held the community. But we've since evolved and grown and become bigger and become global. And so we now host that mentorship community on Discord. So after I'd created that course, people were like, well, the course was great, but I want some one-to-one time with you, Lewis. I want mentorship. I was like, oh my goodness, okay, right. Need to figure this bit out then as well. So then I was like, okay, I'll create a mentorship program. And I'll be honest, it was awful, absolutely awful. I don't even know how people did still get successful, but nowhere near to the speed at which they get successful or the level at which they get successful now with our mentorship process. So when I first launched it, it was a 6-hour mentorship day, one-to-one, and it was 3-hour section in the morning. They'd have a 1-hour break and then a 3-hour section in the afternoon. How I expected people to absorb that information, I don't know. It was a heck of a lot.
That sounds like an intense day.
Very intense. And it didn't not work. It just didn't work as well as it could have done or as well as I would have wanted it.
I'm guessing, they went through the day, they were slightly overwhelmed, and then they had questions every day for the next month or 5.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah. Which was what was good because the community were able to help answer a lot of those questions as well. And that still happens today in terms of the community being super supportive.
So that kind of taught you right away the value of building this into a community that could help each other.
Yes.
The fact that you were not good enough a teacher yet.
Exactly. I was outsourcing it already. Yeah. But one of the questions I get from people who are new to my community quite a lot is like, oh, Lewis, I can't find the frequently asked questions. I'd really like your frequently asked questions. And I just say, no, absolutely not. They're like, what do you mean? was like, what? I don't want to have a frequently asked questions section because that robs you of the opportunity of talking to somebody, and it robs you of the opportunity of building connection and community. So when people who are newer in the journey ask a question into our community group, people who are further along in that journey, maybe just a couple of months, maybe 6 months, maybe 2 years, they get to demonstrate their own learning, realize how far they've come because they're able to answer those questions. And there's so much patience and respect and support and love that is shared there because everyone understands what it is to go through this process. So that's why we don't have frequently asked questions. So yes, just for everyone's benefit, our mentorship process is way better now. The shortest mentorship process we have now is 8 weeks, and we split our training plus additional trainings across that versus making you do it all in one day.
That is good to know. No, but that's beautiful too, with how the community came together and helped each other. And obviously for you, you've continued to grow. You're still trading yourself. You have the business. We were talking, no one listening got the reference there with Starbucks. That was because we were talking about your property investments. So share, like, what is it you do now?
Yes. So I have multiple businesses, asset classes, company structures, blah, 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 boring tax talk. So I invest in property. I took initially my trading profits from my first 2 years and started investing into property. So from the point of not really having a lot of money in my trading account, about 500 to £1,000 initially, to then within 2 years being able to start to invest in property with some of those trading profits. That's kind of where I began. And I bought 10 properties in my first 18 months of investing in property. Not all good. Some of them were terrible. A lot of lessons learned. I'm still investing in property to this day, but the conversation we were having is, do I really want to keep doing that? I don't enjoy property. I think it's very, very hard work. I've just had another build project go completely haywire because of a very bad man, a very dodgy builder who's basically run up the cost of the build and run off with some of the money. So it's going to cost me an additional 80,000 compared to what it should have done. So that's very expensive. Again, within the company structure and with the income we have from multiple places, it's not taking me out of the game, which is brilliant. But if that was my first ever property deal when I began, it could have done. So I'm a big believer in diversification. So the conversation we were having before is, well, do we really want to keep investing in property? If I am going to, then it's going to be different types of strategy, like commercial property, where you have a 20-year lease with a Starbucks or something, hence the Starbucks comment. But I think what I'm more interested in is becoming an investor into other businesses. I love business. I'm passionate about business. I love seeing businesses change people's lives for the better and create real value and real experiences and that kind of thing. So there's a few different places I'm looking to do that for various different reasons. So that's what I'm starting to look at now. I also invest in a lot of artwork because I go to charity auctions. I love to support charities. I drink a little bit too much Prosecco or champagne, and then I start buying pieces of art. Most recently, I was in Monaco and I ended up buying a Salvador Dali piece, which is great.
That's so cool.
It is really cool. Did I need it? No. Is it maybe the best investment? Possibly not. Did it help the charity? Yes. And do I like the art piece? Yes. So,
well, that's always fun to have on your wall and be able to show people when they come over and like, hey, look at this. I mean, the one behind me I got from my grandmother. So like art has a special, special place in our hearts.
Yeah.
I love the way, like, I did a wealth dynamics like personality test a long time ago, and as everyone, you have a little bit of everything. But one of my key parts is I'm an accumulator. I love acquiring assets, and I love your model of how you take your account, you trade it up to a certain amount, and then you take it out and use to acquire other assets. Kind of walk us through, like, what is it you do? How does your money flow on your financial sheet now?
Brilliant question. So now it's a bit different. So when I was first starting out, my main money source, my main income source was my trading. So I would grow my trading account to, I'm just going to use, say, £100,000. And then I knew if it got to £100,000, I could take out 30,000 and I could use that as a deposit to buy a property, which is probably worth about £100,000 itself. So whenever I'd hit that 100,000, I'd be smart. So I wouldn't just take the money out straight away. It's like, right, hit 100, take out that 30, time for me to buy a property. No, When I hit 100, I would look for a property. I'd find the right property deal that stacked up for the numbers, or so we think when we run our numbers.
Yeah.
And
On
then
paper
on
and reality is not always the same thing in property.
not always the same thing, because there's lots of hidden things that can go wrong. So I'd find the deal, I'd accept the deal, we'd agree the purchase price, and we'd start the legal process of me acquiring that property. Now, that process can take 6 months, it can take 9 months, it can take 12 months. So it would be unwise to take money out of my trading account, which is growing at, say, 5% per month.
And obviously, when you say 12 months, that's not just the legals. That's you finding the property. Like, that's the period. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it can be just legals. I had a property stuck in legals for 9 months last year on a very simple buy-to-let. Now, again, the power of having choice and freedom and finances behind you is that it got so ridiculous what was going on that property deal. I told the other side to bugger off with their legal team, basically. And I fired my legal team and I just bought it in cash because I was just so done with the process. So yeah, there's a term called FU money. I won't say the actual word, but FU money. That was a moment for me where I was like, yeah, FU money. I'm making this happen now. So what I do is I let that money stay in my account for that 6, 9, 12 months, growing interest and growing even more. So by the time I actually need to take that money out of my account, I could easily have not 100,000, but 130,000, which means what? That means when I take the 30 out to purchase a property, unless I've gotten so annoyed I've taken the whole amount out, if I take just that 30,000 out, I'm already at my 100 again, which means what? It means I can start looking for the next property already. So we start to see this cycle. I'm always very careful, though, to only take out money from my account, which is going to leave enough in my trading account that means I can continue to grow using the power of compound interest, which is something I talk about a lot on my introductory trainings, whether that's in my ebook, the Masterclass, or one of our foundational paid trainings. So that's kind of the process I go on there. Now I've got multiple money sources. So I kind of do a similar process, but with my trading, with my property portfolio that's also generating me cash, and then also my business as well. So I've got these different things coming in to this main pot, which I then use to acquire more assets, more cash flowing assets, or non-cash flowing assets like art and gold.
Right. And now what is it you're looking at starting to acquire now? You mentioned before businesses, commercial properties. Like where is it taking you?
Well, there's heart and head here when I talk about investing in businesses. So the businesses I want to invest in, if I'm thinking more logically, are businesses that won't require too much of my time, although that may be a misnomer in terms of, again, businesses can end up taking up a lot of your time. But one area that I quite like the idea of, and a lot of people are buying accountancies and merging them together and that kind of thing. One area I'd like to invest in is funeral homes. Why? Because I think COVID taught a lot of people a lot of lessons. And there's a lot of businesses out there that can't withstand difficult times or tricky times. And that might be fine if it's just a passion project for you. But if you want long-term sustainability and financial peace, then I am looking at I'm looking at funeral homes because they will always be there. People will always be dying. So there will always be a need for those services. And that is the kind of business that I'm looking for, things which will always be in need, always be in demand, that there's not going to be a fashion trend or anything like that that's going to change. AI at this stage and for the next however many years isn't going to be able to bring that human touch into that process. And so I quite like the idea of that kind of business, which is recession proof, fashion proof, global pandemic proof, all of those things.
Basically, your classic boring businesses that make money all day, every day.
Yeah.
Cool. So one of the questions I know we always get is, now you have your wealth, you have your property portfolio. Like even there, when you were sitting there in that hotel room in Durban, you knew you didn't have to keep teaching. You could quit and still be fine. So why are you teaching? Like that's a question a lot of people have, is like, if you are so rich, why do you need our money?
Yeah. I hear that question all the time and I love it. And I always ask a question back. I was like, if you had a life-changing skill that had changed your life for the better, would you not want to share it with other people? And 90% of the time, the answer is yes. And if the answer is no, that's actually totally okay. Not everyone wants to teach other people. Not everyone wants to do that kind of thing. Now, the problem I've had is when I've done that for free, it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
They don't put the work in. They don't take it seriously. You value what you pay for. And for me,
right
there's
back to when you were working as a counselor.
exactly. And there's three magic beans of growth that I talk about, which is time, money, and energy. And when we put those three things into any area of our life, that's when we start to see growth. So that's why I'm a big believer in paid for education. Yes, I give a load of free resources out because I want people to have a taster of what it is that I do and the style of which that I do it. But I also want to have a massive impact on this planet. And so if I want to have a massive impact on this planet, I need resource, I need money, I need capital to be able to do that. And I need to pay my team members to be able to do that. And my team are exceptionally experienced and massively passionate about helping other people. They deserve to be paid for their time. And so it's not just me showing up on my Instagram page every now and then, like saying, hey, does anybody want to understand about a candle or understand about this market? No, there's a whole system, a whole structure in place to facilitate the level of impact that we can have and will have on the planet. And so that's why I charge, because you're going to value it more. You will be way more likely to do the work, which means you will be way more likely to be successful, which means I'm meeting my mission, serving my mission, and looking after not only you as the person learning, but also the whole team behind the scenes that enable your learning to take place as exceptionally well as it does take place. So that's my answer to that one.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And by the way, a candle is a trading term, just for those who going like, why would I want to learn about a candle? Like, why am I going to Lewis to learn about these?
Oh, we're not talking about my candle making business. Is that not what
Oh, right. Yes. Let's get into that. That's your new investment, right?
That's the new one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the good one. All right.
Actually, that'd be a great side business for what I teach, wouldn't it? I don't actually have a candle business.
A trading candle that you can light when you've had a win at home.
Oh, that's brilliant. As a gratitude moment. I love that.
Exactly. A winning trade candle that you light each time.
I'm actually going to make a note of that because I think that's genius. Right.
All right. So let's get into some details for people listening. How about a 30 days kind of beginner's roadmap? What can someone do to start safely trading without being overwhelmed?
Oh, great question. So a 30-day roadmap would be number one, day one, follow with Lewis Crompton on social media, or you can check out my YouTube channel. So you could spend a couple of days consuming some of the free content I've got there. That's probably a good thing to do. After you've done that for a couple of days, if you think you like what I talk about, how I say things, then download my ebook. Give yourself a couple of days to read that. It's not a short ebook.
We'll link that in the show notes as well, so everyone can download that.
Amazing. Yeah. So it's not small. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but give yourself a few days to really kind of read through it bit by bit. There's some actions in there that you can take as well. So then we're kind of into week 2. In week 2, I would get yourself registered for one of my free masterclasses. Again, we'll go into more detail. You'll understand how things work. You'll see kind of the charts and everything like that. Financial markets are all based on charts, so we need to understand the charts. And then what I would do...
We'll link to that as well, so where you can find the coming dates and everything. So that'll be in the show notes.
Brilliant. And so then on your 3rd and 4th weeks, it's kind of about, you can either do like a paid foundational training with us, but whether you do that or don't do that, it's really about starting to practice. So you want to practice some of these skill sets. Now, what the ebook will do is we'll also give you information on the 2 major things you need in order to trade and access financial markets. Now, that is charting software, so access to the markets and what they look like, but also a broker, which is where we place our investments. So you'll need both of those things. Now, on my foundational trainings, which are paid for, we do full training on those as well and how to use them. But it's really about practice. So that's kind of your first 30 days is consume and build a foundation of knowledge, consume as much of my free stuff as you can, and then consider going on to one of my paid for foundational trainings. But really, whether you're doing that or not doing that, it's about practicing these skills. because trading is a business in a box. And when I say box, just a laptop. All you need is a laptop or a desktop computer. I wouldn't be doing it off of a phone or off of an iPad, laptop or desktop computer. And you just need those 2 bits of software, which is charting software and the broker. And both of them are free. You don't have to pay for either of those. So it really is the lowest cost business startup you could ever possibly hope for.
Nice. All right. So one of the biggest challenges as a trader is once you know the system is actually very easy. You just wait till it hits whatever signal you're waiting for, and then you click whatever the signal told you to click, and then you're done. The reason most people fail is their emotions get in the way.
Yeah.
What do you do to kind of keep yourself and keep your students staying disciplined and managing their emotions so that fear or greed doesn't take them away from what's working?
So if they're part of my mentorship program, we actually have my mindset coach come in once a month and do a mindset training with them. Beyond that, really what we're wanting to do is stick to our system. And so part of what we do to help every single person that we work with achieve that is we make our system super clear and super easy to follow. So we have a 5-step method, which is called the star trading method, which is what makes people successful traders. And one of those elements is called modalities. So modalities are really just strategies and structures that we apply to the market, which repeat themselves, which is what gives us repeatable profit on a month-to-month basis. And so what we use there are literally tick list sets of criteria, a list of criteria that our mentees can tick once they know what they are looking for. And so if you don't have ticks across all the boxes, it's a very simple decision. You don't place the trade. If you do have ticks on all of those boxes, it's a very simple decision. You do place the trade. And so we try to take out as much of the emotional weight of our trading decisions as possible by just having it super duper clear and having that tick list set of criteria.
Nice. Well, let's talk families or couples for a moment. As we know, one of the most common reasons for divorce is financial issues. What would you recommend everyone listening, one money conversation that they should have or action they can take to reduce financial stress in a relationship?
Oh, I love this question because I am on a mission to help 1 million families live with less stress and have more fun through financial empowerment. So I think one of the key conversations, the foundational conversations any couple or any family need to have is about clarity. So clarity around where is our money going? What money do we have coming in? If you don't have that as the foundation, you're going to really struggle to make any decision, any plan beyond that. So the conversation needs to, number one, be what money do we have coming in? What money do we have going out? Second part of that conversation is how do we increase the money coming in? How do we decrease the money going out? Because you may have different priorities about what you do and don't want to spend money on. You cannot take the tone of I'm right, you're wrong. It's a partnership, right? So you need to decide together what you're willing to spend on this or spend on that.
You would never do that, right? You would never tell Josh that. No, of course not.
Absolutely not.
No.
Although we were having a conversation yesterday, funny enough, about whether or not we're going to continue with our mortgage as is or shift it over to interest only. So, because we've got our mortgage rate coming to an end in a few months' time, and I want to shift it to interest only, whereas Josh doesn't want to shift it to interest only. So we're having a conversation about that.
Right. And you would never say, I'm right, you're wrong.
Oh no, those words have never come out of my mouth. No.
Okay. See, guys, we always practice what we preach, and we are perfect human beings in every single way and never make any mistakes.
Exactly. That's the takeaway from today.
Yes, that's what we wanted to share and show you as listeners, that me and Lewis are the ideal human beings. All right. So we always finish with kind of a rapid questions round. We kind of already started it, so you've been warmed up a little bit. So I'm going to ask you 4 questions, answer as quickly as you can, and then we'll end with your gift, which you've already kind of hinted at. All right. So you ready for the rapid fire round?
I'm ready for the rapid fire round.
All right. Here we go. You're not allowed to say your book on this, What is the best financial book you can recommend to beginners?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
A daily habit you use to stay sharp in trading?
I have a green drink, which I feel boosts my energy and health. So it enables me to focus better throughout the day.
Nice. One trading myth you'd retire today?
That you have to spend hours in front of your charts and be super clever at maths to be successful.
Right. Which is not true. That we're retiring that now. Exactly. Yeah. Who's your favorite student?
Oh, I can't answer that.
I was hoping to catch you in one and have the rest of your students be angry. All right. Awesome. All right. So we always wrap this up with some gifts. You've already mentioned them, but I'll let you mention them again and we'll link to them in the show notes.
Brilliant. So yes, really great place to start is with my ebook. There's got loads of trading tips and knowledge and some of my experiences and journey in there. It took me 2 years to write it as I was traveling around the world. So that is there. It's also got information about brokers and charting software. If you are honest with yourself, you're probably not going to bother reading it, but you can make 90 minutes available to learn about this and what it looks like and how it could change your life for the better. Then come to one of my free masterclasses. I'll give you a link to that as well.
Awesome. All right, Lewis, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll see you soon, my friend.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Swedish Wealth Institute podcast. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. As another thank you for being here, I want to give you a final gift this episode, a free ticket to your Path to Financial Freedom Summit. It's 4 days with world-class mentors, including Les Brown, Nick Vujicic, Brian Tracy, Robert Kiyosaki, John Azarov, and many, many more absolutely amazing speakers. So make sure you go and grab your free ticket in the link in the show notes. Next week, this is a big one. We have one of the speakers from the Your Path to Financial Freedom Summit, Rob Moore. Rob is an entrepreneur, he's an investor, and he's the host of the Disruptors podcast. We'll be digging into how to scale your business smart, how to raise capital, and how to play the long game. You definitely don't want to miss this. Again, thank you for being a part of the Swedish Wealth Institute community, and congratulations on taking another step towards your future and success. Please make sure you hit subscribe on whatever your favorite platform is. Share this episode with any friend who you think needs it, and I'll see you at the summit and next week's episode. Rob Moore is the entrepreneur behind Progressive Property and host of Disruptors podcast. From scale to content to income streams, expect sharp, usable insights.
What would I have wanted to do a couple or 5 or 10 years ago? Right, who's to blame? What person, what staff member? But actually, if you trail back, everything comes back to you. Let's say a salesperson has been up to mischief. Okay, well, you could say, well, it's the manager's fault for not spotting the mischief properly. Okay, well, then it's my fault that I haven't trained the manager properly. Or if there's a flaw in the system and the manager didn't spot the system and the salesperson did, fair play to the salesperson. Good on them, well done. We'll be having words, but well done. And it's my responsibility to make sure it doesn't happen again. I own the business. Everything is my fault.